evening and welcome. You're watching Breaking Views with me, Sanket Upadhyay, a show where we get you all the views so that you get the complete picture. Now, in yesterday's match, we had almost won, but then we lost. And there were two things that happened in the last overs. One is a very expensive over from Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, and then a drop, a misfield by Arshdeep Singh. After that, Arshdeep came in, he bowled a fantastic over in the end, but by then the game was lost. Anyway, it is just a game. We win some, we lose some. True to the nature of this country, we are an emotional country. We get happy very quickly and excited, and then we are sad and angry also. But at what point do we start calling our players Khalistani, terrorist, change the Wikipedia page, accuse players of being affiliated with Khalistani organizations, and that's why dropping the catch? Now that was a bit too much. But the point is, trolling of this kind had started happening yesterday, happened early this morning, and then later senior BJP leaders came out and said that no, this is not Indians who are trolling. These are Pakistani Twitter handles masquerading as Indians, trolling Arshdeep Singh, so that there is a divide in this country. One such leader is Mr. Sirsa of the Bharatiya Janata Party, who has just now tweeted, and let's put that tweet on the screen right now, where he says, I have filed a police complaint against Mohammed Zubair from Alt News, as he has, in fact, he was a part of Pakistan's conspiracy to defame Sikhs and fuel hate campaign against Sikhs in India. His screenshots are used by Pakistani handles. I have demanded inquiry into who supported Zubair in creating this Khalistani agenda. So that's the allegation by Mr. Manjinder Singh Sirsa of the Bharatiya Janata Party, that Mohammed Zubair is conspiring with Pakistan to defame Sikhs and fuel hate campaign against Sikhs in this country. But first, let's quickly tell you what was the sequence of events. So this is what happened. On the 4th of September, the India versus Pakistan match of the Asia Cup, you had India sadly losing to Pakistan by 5 wickets. Arshdeep dropped a crucial catch in the final overs, but then Arshdeep was trolled online for the drop. There was a Khalistan slur on social media. Also, Arshdeep's Wikipedia page was changed to portray a certain Khalistan connection or a Khalistan association. These are the facts as far as this case is concerned. And the BJP's Manjinder Singh Sirsa, as we just showed you, alleged that there was a Pakistani propaganda behind this trolling. These were not Indians. These are not Indians who are trolling Arshdeep. It's actually Pakistan as part of a propaganda creating trouble in this country. Now what happened in this Wikipedia page? Let's quickly tell you that. So Arshdeep's Wikipedia page, according to the government, is now vandalized. There are reports which suggest that Arshdeep's his Wikipedia page is has basically been given a spin that he's affiliated with Khalistan, and it portrays a pro-Khalistani link. And the center has now summoned, the central government, which is the government of the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, has now summoned Wikipedia executives after this page was vandalized to find out who vandalized it, what was the IP address. Some of the experts, some of the IT experts who have good knowledge of how to track IP addresses, where the change was made. You see, Wikipedia is, the nature of Wikipedia is such that anyone can change. It's basically open source. Anyone can change information about an individual. So the Indian government wants to know where exactly is this IP address and what is the check and balance that Wikipedia puts in place. Some of the experts say, IT experts say, that the IP address was traced back to Pakistan. In fact, there are pro-government fact checkers who are now claiming that most of the initial Khalistan tweets were coming out of Pakistan and the United States of America. Not many were coming out from India. So these were not Indians who were doing this. That's the That's the tweet handle. It's called Anti-Propaganda Front. It says Indian cricketer Arshdeep Singh dropped a catch in the final moments of India versus Pakistan. Soon Pakistani ISI bots and Seeks for Justice, which is a banned organization in India, a Khalistani organization. They started targeting Arshdeep, calling him Khalistani. Similar propaganda was run by Pakistan against Mohd Shami during the T20 World Cup. And then there is a long thread which explains what happened. They give a sort of a breakup also, which we'll show you through the course of this program. So on the show this evening, first of all, not a question but a statement. It's very important to put this statement out. And the statement is now going to come on your screen. India is with Arshdeep. Period. There is absolutely no debate. People drop catches. I mean, people who have not played gully cricket also will now suddenly become experts on how catches need to be dropped and picked, and it was a tense moment. He has been spectacular, Arshdeep. To now draw an inference that this was not very wise of him, or as some allege, deliberate on his part. And then now this notorious Khalistani angle, and then the Pakistani angle. Imagine what this will do to a young player. He's only 23. And it is time now for every nefarious and notorious tweet, for all patriotic Indians now, to perhaps pick up their phone and tweet in favor of Arshdeep. Because it is very clear that India is with Arshdeep, period. Let's quickly play out these reactions.
अर्शदीप के कैच के बारे में बहुत बातें हो रही हैं। आप ऐसे सीनियर खिलाड़ियों को क्या गाइड करेंगे, कुछ बात करेंगे उनसे, क्योंकि इतने प्रेशर वाले गेम में कैच छोड़ना उनके लिए भी इजी नहीं होगा अभी।
नहीं, प्रेशर में देखिए गलती किसी से भी हो सकती है, और बड़ा मैच है, सिचुएशन भी थोड़ी टाइट थी, तो हम सब ने मुझे याद है मैं पहली बार चैंपियंस ट्रॉफी खेला था पाकिस्तान के अगेंस्ट, मेरा पहला मैच था, और मैंने एक बहुत ख़राब शॉट मारा था शाहिद अफरीदी को, और मैं 5 बजे तक सुबह सिर्फ सीलिंग को देख रहा था, मुझे नींद नहीं आ रही थी, मुझे लगा मैं तो वापस कभी चांस नहीं मिलेगा, मेरा करियर ख़त्म हो गया। तो ये सब चीज़ें नेचुरल है फील करने के लिए, लेकिन सीनियर प्लेयर आपके आसपास आते हैं, कल हम लोग एज ए टीम फिर इकट्ठा होंगे, तो जब माहौल अच्छा होता है तो फिर आप उस चीज़ से सीखते हैं, और अगली बार अगर वैसी अपॉर्चुनिटी आए तो आप लुक फॉरवर्ड करते हैं कि यार दोबारा मेरे पास क्या आनी चाहिए। तो आई थिंक वो क्रेडिट अभी जो टीम एनवायरनमेंट है, वो क्रेडिट मैं मैनेजमेंट और कैप्टन को दूंगा कि उन्होंने ऐसा माहौल बनाया हुआ है कि सबको लगता है कि हाँ यार हम लोग कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, अगली बार आएगी तो हमें चाहिए वो मोमेंट। तो जैसे कि मैंने बोला, माहौल अच्छा है, उसमें गलतियाँ आपकी होंगी, आप उसको एक्सेप्ट करें, एड्रेस करें, और अगली बार फिर लुक फॉरवर्ड करें कि मुझे उसी प्रेशर सिचुएशन में दोबारा आना।
एक ट्वीट मोहम्मद जुबैर ने भी किया, जिसमें उसने एक कोलैज बनाकर उन सभी ट्वीट्स को जोड़ा जो लोग खालिस्तानी वर्ड यूज कर रहे थे। तो जब मैंने उसको बारीकी से देखा तो क्या समझ में आया कि बहुत सारे जो ट्विटर हैंडल्स थे वो इस बात के ऊपर सवाल उठा रहे थे कि तुम इसको खालिस्तानी क्यों बोल रहे हो। उनका एक कोलाज बनाकर और उसने उसकी ऐसी प्रोजेक्शन की कि ये सब लोग अर्शदीप के खिलाफ बोल रहे हैं, जबकि अर्शदीप के हक में बोल रहे थे। तो इस एजेंडे को लेकर ये सारे ट्विटर हैंडल्स जो थे और इस कोलाज के जो बाकी मैंने ट्वीट देखे, उसके पीछे कोई फॉलोअर नहीं था, वो खाली ट्वीट हैंडल कुछ समय पहले तैयार किए गए थे और उनका कोई फॉलोअर नहीं था। 1-2 लोग उनके ऊपर थे और बाकी कोई फॉलोअर भी नहीं था।
All right, joining us right now, Mr. Manjeet Rai, leader of the BJP, Arshpreet Khadial is the spokesperson of the Congress Party, Sanjay Jha, founder of cricketnext.com, and Jitin Jain, a cyber security expert. Jitin, I want to begin with you. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Jitin, I want to begin with you first. I remember in an earlier broadcast you were telling us that any IT expert would be able to trace back the source of these tweets and this information and that Wikipedia page change where Arshdeep Singh and his link with that very, very notorious link was drawn to Khalistan. Can you please tell our viewers how?
Look, so IP addresses are allocated to telecom or internet service providers. Like in India, if you see, 9810 numbers are with Airtel, 9899 was Hutch. So if you look at a mobile number, within a minute you can figure out which country this number belongs to. So likewise, if you look at an IP address, within a minute you can figure out which country this belongs to. So the Wikipedia edit which was done to defame Arshdeep and call him a Khalistani and vandalize his page the edit that happened from a particular user who is based in Pakistan, and as a confirmatory thing, the IP address of that user, which is visible on Wikipedia page, because Wikipedia capture IP addresses when you make an edit, that IP address belongs to Pakistan. So that's link number one. Now, second, there are two kind of accounts on Twitter. When you run a hashtag trend, one who openly claim to be Pakistanis. Then there are second sort of accounts which are Pakistanis, which masquerade as Indian accounts, using fake identities, calling themselves with Indian-looking names and all those things. But if you carefully look, you can figure out they are bots, because they're tweeting a set of propaganda, always pro Imran Khan, pro ISI, abusing India, and then using names as Bharat Ka Putra and all those things. So the point here is, if you look at this entire thing in a larger context, this is not about cricket, this is not about Hindu and Muslims. Pakistani army, as their war doctrine, has been using information warfare and disinformation propaganda as a tool to create divides and fixtures in India, to bleed India with 1,000 wounds using cyber every day. And this is not my assumption. It is written in the Green Book, which reflects the security policy, which is available online, which was leaked online, and it has been happening for 4 years. And there is a continual pattern ever since 360 was abolished. There is a Kashmir to Khalistan project where they try and link up Kashmir and Khalistan as two common issues and coming together. So all the accounts which are tweeting against government of India during Article 370 abrogation, most of them were projecting themselves as Sikhs. Sure. Most of them were operating as fake accounts by Sikh for Justice, which is a banned organization funded and fueled by ISI. If you go on, then for 4 years there are continuous hashtags which are being run. Indian Muslims in danger. So suppose there is a small incident which happens where an Indian, user on Zomato will put.
But Jitin, then my most obvious question is, what does the government do? What does the government do?
I will not take second chance. Just 2 minutes. So an idiotic Indian user somewhere might comment and say कि मेरे को Muslim से pizza delivery नहीं चाहिए. A small incident in a country of 1.4 billion may happen. But these Pakistani accounts will tweet that photo in thousands and thousands and create a picture as if every Indian is boycotting Muslims. They will create thousands and hundreds of fake videos shooting riots, projecting that Indians are killing, Hindus are killing Muslims, Muslims are killing Indians, molesting women and all those things, creating an atmosphere of deep religious divide in India. Now, preventing terrorism in Punjab is another their agenda where they're trying to fuel this Khalistan issue. Now, calling Mohd Shami a Pakistani or calling Arshdeep a Khalistani is that larger propaganda of creating religious divides in India. Now, on Indian government side, I think our agencies have completely failed to understand this new age warfare, a fifth generation warfare. They are not able to detect. 2, they are not able to stop. 3, at times when they are able to detect, they don't know how to deal with it. And it has come to a stage where our society has completely fallen for that ISPR trap. Our mainstream political opposition parties question government whether you actually dropped a bomb during airstrikes or not. Our political parties actually believe that it is Indian society which has been trolling Mohd Shami or Arshdeep. Our journalists, our society, our leaders actually fight with each other.
No, but then, here is the thing, Jitin. I would, long before this Twitter generation or social media rage, existed a time where Indians used to love their cricket and cricketers when they won, and Indians used to thrash their cricketers when they used to lose. So this has happened. But if you say that this is a cyber security threat and a new form of cyber warfare which Pakistan is indulging in, then in that case much more is expected from the government, because just imagine what this does to the morale of the players, what this does to, how do you expect a common Twitter user in this country to know that this is cyber warfare from Pakistan? Apart from just saying, you'll have to give proof to people. One moment, Sanjay Jha, you see, if the government does not act, if you do not produce conclusive proof to say that this is Pakistani, it will appear as if the government is trying to hide behind saying that, whatever is happening is basically coming from Pakistan. I'm willing to trust the government. I'm willing to trust the government as long as there is factual proof presented in front of the country with data that here are for instance, as Jitin just said, you can track down the IP addresses, you can give all that data and put it out in the public domain.
Well, Sanket, I'm glad you pointed out, because we all have grown, loving cricket. We love our cricketers. We idolize them. We lionize them. But whenever they have gone through a rough patch, history tells us that we have also got very aggressive. and at times extremely violent as well. I remember the last when India failed in the World Cup in the West Indies, after we struggled against Bangladesh and we were knocked out even before the main tournament took off. There was so much of anger against the team that comprised of Saurav Ganguly, Rahul Dravid, MS Dhoni and Sachin Tendulkar. I can understand emotions run high, but the truth is this matter appears to be a lot more sensitive, because if I were to go by what Jiten Jain is saying, he says that this is entirely engineered, it's a project from across the border, which makes it a very sensitive issue in terms of national security. Because end of day, to call a young cricketer, I mean, Arshdeep Singh comes across as such a friendly, sweet, likable cricketer, besides the fact that he's a fantastic player. And to make him appear like a Khalistani, if that's the positioning being done, I think it's awful, it's dangerous, it's unhealthy. It can have very negative repercussions. And I do believe it's then the state responsibility to ensure that if there are Twitter handles which are nefarious and spreading a malicious kind of propaganda, or indulging in a malignant attempt to divide India using a popular actor, the state needs to act and act extremely promptly. But I think Jiten has a point that end of day, if you look at our country, I mean, we may call ourselves a back office operations of the world. We don't have a data protection act yet. We are so casual about the way these things happen. He's absolutely right. The majority of people I know still believe, if it's true that Mohd Shami was only trolled from people from Pakistan or some other hostile country, a lot of people don't buy it. They believe that there were many people, who are fanatical lovers of the game who targeted a one poor, Muslim man playing for the Indian cricket team. So I think these are really responsibility of the government, because the players, Sanket, they don't deserve to go through this hellish nightmare. Imagine what the young boy is feeling at the moment.
Correct.
Playing the Asia Cup for India. Does he deserve this? And it was lovely hearing
And
Virat.
look at his record. I mean, look at his record in the game. A spectacular bowler.
Yeah.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
Even
And
yesterday.
it's so nice to see Virat Kohli speaking like a statesman. He's looked so concerned. You can see the solicitude and affection he has for his younger colleague. But end of day, this goes beyond a player. This is the responsibility of the establishment to work proactively towards.
Sure. Okay. Manjeet Rai, मैं आपके पास आना चाहता हूं. And my question to you is, Manjeet जी, ये बजाय इसके कि एजेंसीज तुरंत काम करें, आप कह रहे हैं पाकिस्तानी प्रोपेगेंडा है, पाकिस्तानी एंगल है, जैसे जितिन बता रहे हैं. जितिन ये भी बता रहे हैं कि अगर सरकार चाहे, द गवर्नमेंट वांट्स, आप एक्सपर्ट्स को बुला के 5 मिनट में पता लगा सकते हैं कि क्या चीज क्या है और फैक्ट्स प्रेजेंट कर सकते हैं लोगों के सामने. लेकिन हो क्या रहा है, मनजिंदर सिंह सिरसा जो हैं वो कह रहे हैं कि मैं कंप्लेंट करूंगा उसके खिलाफ, मोहम्मद जुबैर के खिलाफ.
you're not
focusing on the core problem.
From the face of Wikipedia of Arshdeep has been changed from Pakistan. IP addresses belongs to Pakistan. और MS जो मिनिस्ट्री है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक टेक्नोलॉजी, उन्होंने एग्जीक्यूटिव्स ऑफ विकिपीडिया को सम्मन किया है, तो उनसे वो जवाब मांगेंगे भी ऐसा चेंज हुआ है तो कैसे हुआ है.
आप एक बात बताइए मंजीत जी, ये कोई ब्यूरोक्रेटिक सिस्टम नहीं है, दिस इज टेक्नोलॉजी. And you know how technology moves fast.
That's why
आप कल समन करेंगे, वो परसों आएंगे, फिर तरसों फैसला होगा, then you will call another meeting.
उनको बुलाया और वो इस चीज का जवाब देंगे कि चेंज कैसे हुआ, और वो भी जो
That's my point.
है वो पाकिस्तान से है.
I don't see any urgency from the government, and that's why these things will keep on happening. Then you will say this is a Pakistani problem.
Summon to the executive of the Indian who represent to Wikipedia in our country. उनको सम्मन किया गया है और वो बताएंगे ये कैसे चेंज हुआ और जिससे
if you want the people of this country to believe that this is anti-India propaganda emanating from Pakistan, produce proof officially from government sources for the people to believe. Because right now a proof here, a proof there, somebody saying this, somebody saying that does not cut it. That's the point Jitin is making. The time is horribly slow. Government moves slowly. You don't take action.
अगर उन्होंने ये ऐसा उन्होंने अपने रिकॉर्ड में निकाला है तो उनको सम्मन किया, उनके एग्जीक्यूटिव से उनसे पूछेंगे और मेरे ख्याल कल तक ये हो जाएगा. वो उनको जवाब देना पड़ेगा कि कैसे किसने चेंज किया है. और गवर्नमेंट विल टेक एक्शन अगेंस्ट दोस पीपल.
Arshdeep, what needs to be done? One moment. And it'll be great if we could have political consensus on something. If this is about national security, today it is
Yes.
Arshdeep. Tomorrow it can be anything.
Of course.
I mean,
And
they will look
we
for
also-
reasons to do this over and over again.
See, we also happen to share a common name. So definitely my sympathies are with Arshdeep. And number two, you asked me a question as to what would the Congress party do. Kindly give me an uninterrupted minute. First of all, we would have ordered a time-bound inquiry. And that should have happened right after the incident occurred. The first troll, the first post that was made, that was demeaning, derogatory and defamatory, the inquiry should have been ordered so as to be able to bring that to a halt. But but since we are debating upon this issue and we have seen how big the problem has become and how many repercussions there are, being generated out of it, it goes on to suggest that the BJP party wasn't concerned with it, and they rather apparently waited it out so that the people could, probably talk about something which is not about the government's failures. For example, inflation, poverty, unemployment, etc. Number two, no matter what happens, let me convey this once and for all. The Congress party stands with Arshdeep. He was the pride of India and will continue to be the pride of India. And we hope and appeal to everybody who's watching this and to the Congress party's workers and leaders that you should openly come out in the support of Arshdeep, because he's unnecessarily being trolled, being, propaganda is being initiated against him. And number three, this obnoxious trolling and propaganda is coming from where? Some so-called experts who are not in the Indian cricket team. If they really were experts and knew everything about catching and, bowling, they probably would have been in the Indian team and not Arshdeep. It is the other way around. So therefore, do they even have any locus standard to question the ball that the catch was missed? And number five, BJP says that Pakistan is involved in it. And there are certain opinions coming on the IP address. What is the BJP waiting for? Why can't they initiate an inquiry to a certain who is behind it? Why can't they initiate an inquiry to a certain who is behind it?
Time is of essence, Manjinder. You're saying humne bulaya hai, we have called and all over here, as Jitin said, time is of essence.
That is not an inquiry.
I will agree.
That is basically, that is dodging it. That is deflecting it.
Okay,
that is dodging and deflecting. That is not an
there
inquiry.
is every possibility that this could be a Pakistani propaganda. But my point is, if this comes not by way of some tweet or some government sources, by the government directly, a credible voice from the government saying this is proof of Pakistani involvement, that will help the country rally behind the government that yes, indeed, this is a problem. This procrastinating, delaying, hiding, that game I think does not work. And it has now started affecting, our cricketers. It will soon start affecting every aspect of life. We don't want it. Sanjay Jha, I want to ask you, Sanjay Jha.
An inquiry is always better.
Sanjay Jha, I want to ask you this question. One moment, Ashpreet ji, one moment. Sanjay Jha, the one thing I wanted to ask you, I'm sure this will have a terrible impact on the mental health of the players. Imagine a 23-year-old caught in the middle of a debate on Khalistan and India and Pakistan. That's the last thing. That's the last thing that one would want on the mind of a player.
Absolutely.
Going through so much pressure. So what should the board do? What sort of effort needs to be made? I'm sure there are mental health experts and all. They have the best coaches with them. But what else can be done?
Well, Sanket, first and foremost, we need to recognize that all these international players have gone through a very tough time because they have played cricket during the pandemic, living in bubbles, which can have very serious mental health problems. You've seen many cricketers have taken breaks because they have actually not been able to handle the isolation, the match pressure, living, away from their families, not being able to step out of their rooms. It's been a traumatic experience. What the BCCI ought to do here, and this is very, very critical, is to ensure that they and the entire team needs to come up front and don't just leave it to one or two people. They should all say that we are going to stand behind any player who's subjected to such kind of merciless abuse and campaign. Number two, very critical. The cricketers must be told that when you are playing cricket, stay off social media, and don't watch television. Let me tell you, it's a very easy temptation. Your family member will tell you something, etc. But I know of people who actually studiously ignore social media or avoid television. It's humanly tough, but it must be done, because otherwise your mind can play havoc with you. The third point, which is very critical, is that, the players need mental conditioning. I believe now, they're getting one of the veterans of the past back again to, do those motivation talks. Remember, a player is not just about, the physical fitness and the skills on the field. It's all about the space, the 6 inches between 2 ears. And I think that conditioning, that mental toughness is something that today the international players are quite aware how susceptible they can be.
Exactly.
They're professional. They know it, but they still will need guidance.
And that is why we decided not to put this to a debate, but basically give out a statement. I've run out of time. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Can I just take
and we'll
30
quickly
seconds?
we'll quickly put that over-the-shoulder placard one more time on the screen, that India is with Arshdeep. And this is a fact. Period. We are with Arshdeep. This is the position of India. Now, whoever that troll may be, it's very clear. If you can troll, you can be angry, you can be mad for the moment, but you can't hold it against such a stellar cricket player. Good night and goodbye.